Even if you try to stir up trouble for us, it won't change a thing for you. Your money holds no value for people like us, with our humble backgrounds. As I finished the final check, I added with feigned politeness, "You're closing your account, right?" "Go ahead," I said, my tone laced with sarcasm. Their disdainful glares made my skin crawl. It was time to give those who judge by lineage a taste of their own medicine. I smiled at the thought. I'm Tiffany, a 29-year-old office worker. I lead a quiet life with my mom, who has been my rock since my dad passed away from a long-term illness during my childhood. Despite his busy work life, he cherished family time, and I have treasured memories of playing with him on his days off. Mom and I were initially devastated by his death, but she made sure I never felt alone, focusing on the time we had together. Fortunately, Dad had arranged for financial stability with his former CEO, securing our future. Because of this, I was able to attend college, and both my parents' families were very supportive, especially my paternal grandparents, who lived nearby and helped care for me while Mom worked. We still visit both sets of grandparents for holidays like Christmas and enjoy those moments together. I owe my life to the support of those around me. In return, I attended a national university and landed a job at a major corporation. I considered following in my dad's footsteps at the bank he was set to inherit, but I chose to pursue a career I loved instead, guided by his advice to follow my passion. Having moved on from the bank, I had no worries about it. My fulfilling home environment and freedom to explore my interests left me uninterested in romance. However, as many friends settled into marriages and families, I began to reconsider. That's when fate intervened. I never anticipated that this meeting would lead to such a turning point. "Hey, Tiffany, aren't you IED in love?" It started innocently, a question from a colleague I'd known since our rookie days. "I know someone who's struggling to find a match. He's well-educated and handsome." "You're educated too, Tiffany. Would you like to meet him?" "Really? It seems like a waste for someone as accomplished as you." "Tiffany, there are a few people in the office who have their eyes on you." With her vast network and knack for storytelling, she was always full of insights. Living with her boyfriend from a party, she radiated happiness and seemed genuinely concerned about my lack of romantic involvement. I even sought her advice about marriage, leading to this setup. A few days later, I agreed to meet a man named Yosef at a cafe. As I waited nervously, a man approached. "Tiffany?" "Yes, that's me. Nice to meet you. Are you YF?" "Yes, thanks for today." His expression was blank as he scanned me, and it felt like he was evaluating me. Taking a seat, he quickly began the conversation. "What do you do for work, Tiffany?" "I work in sales. I've always enjoyed interacting with people and sharing my ideas, which is why I chose this path. I find it fulfilling, especially when customers leave happy with their purchases." "What's the name of your company?" When I told him, he paused, a smirk creeping onto his face, not a pleasant one, more like a self-satisfied grin. "My company has a strong reputation. Our customers trust us," I said, trying to maintain a professional demeanor. "Please, sit," he replied. Deciding to turn the tables, I asked, "And you? What do you do?" At my question, YF puffed up with pride and began to boast. "I'm a department head at Sunrise Bank. It's a massive institution. You know, the work is demanding, not everyone can handle it, but since my dad is the CEO and I'm the successor, it's different for me." I felt a stir of discomfort at his arrogance. I knew Sunrise Bank was a major player in the industry, but his tone made it clear he thrived on his family's legacy. "Wow, that's impressive. Sunrise Bank is well known, isn't it?" I complimented him deliberately, sensing that this would be our last meeting. I figured politeness was the best approach. Encouraged by my flattery, YF continued to brag. Honestly, talking to him felt draining. He occasionally listened to me but constantly redirected the conversation back to his achievements, even lamenting about his poor romantic prospects. "I'm quite popular, you know, but I always get approached by people who don't match my family background or education level," he lamented. I suspected his attitude was part of the problem but had already resolved not to see him again. Yet, he remained satisfied with himself, suggesting, "I'd really like to meet your parents." "Huh? We just met today." "That's exactly why. It's important to know about each other's families, especially if we're considering dating, right?" Inside, I screamed, "I have no interest in dating you," but he seemed blissfully unaware of my discomfort. "When are your parents available?" "I'll have to check with my mom about your dad." As he pressed on, my sense of unease grew, yet I struggled to cut him off. "My dad passed away when I was young." At my words, YF narrowed his eyes. A moment of silence passed before he simply responded, "I see," then fell quiet, deep in thought. "Well, send me a date that works for you later. I'll adjust my schedule." No, thank you. Should we wrap up then?" Before I could finish, YF stood up. It felt as if I was conversing with someone from another world. Despite my reluctance, I had given him my contact information and entertained the idea of meeting our parents. His contemptuous reaction upon hearing about my father's absence left me feeling unsettled. In the end, we agreed to meet again with our parents. When I told Mom about it, she smiled warmly. Riley, maybe you're just feeling nervous since you haven't dated before. Maybe, but his way of speaking was just strange. Well, his parents will be there, right? Just say no if it doesn't feel right. I'll be there to support you. Thanks, Mom. I'm sorry for dragging you into this. I felt a twinge of guilt, and Mom laughed heartily. It's perfectly fine, no need to feel bad. Besides, I'm curious about Sunrise Bank. Let's see how it goes. So, Yosef and I arranged the family meeting. At that point, I had no idea that YF had ulterior motives for bringing our families together. On the day of the meeting, we arrived at the fancy restaurant he had chosen. It's quite an upscale place, isn't it? I remarked. Yeah, it is, Yosef replied. Inside, our table was set, but YF hadn't shown up yet. We settled in and waited, and shortly after the scheduled time, Yosef and his family arrived. Sorry we're late, the traffic was terrible, Yosef's father said without any hint of an apology. Nice to meet you all, I offered, trying to keep the mood light. Thank you for having us, his mother added. Yosef's family unapologetically took their seats, and although I felt a flicker of irritation, I wanted to keep the peace as we kicked off the family meeting. After a while, Yosef's mother, Morgan, spoke up, her sly smile evident. So, where's your father? Is he joining us later? Huh? I glanced at Yosef, but he simply smirked dismissively and remained silent. I had already informed him that my father had passed away. Morgan acted as if she were unaware, despite our earlier conversation. Mom quickly intervened. My husband passed away from an illness when Tiffany was young, so I'm here today as her mother. Mom spoke calmly, but Morgan's tone turned exaggerated as she exclaimed, "Oh my, so Tiffany comes from a single-parent family." I was taken aback by her words. Despite knowing my father's history, her tone dripped with malice. Life must be quite difficult for someone from a single-parent family, huh? But she graduated from a public university, that's commendable, right? Really? But wouldn't dating someone like her be complicated? Morgan continued, her words dripping with disdain. Yosef's family's conversation left Mom and me utterly speechless. They spoke so disrespectfully, treating my background as if it were something to be ashamed of. Such remarks aren't appropriate for a first meeting. I finally spoke up, anger rising within me. Excuse me, but after my dad passed away, my mom raised me with incredible care, I added, my voice low but firm. I owed my current life to my mother. Isn't it rude to speak about someone like that when you've just met? Yet, Morgan burst out laughing. Rude? Isn't it even more absurd for the daughter of a single parent to consider marrying into a high-class family? YF chimed in. I'm not really into strong-willed women. This is pointless, he added dismissively, realizing that reasoning with them was futile. I could only stare at them in disbelief. I had hoped for more, considering YF worked at a major company. Morgan continued, well, you'll eventually be running Sunrise Bank, so maybe she's just not on your level. As they hurled more insults, I felt no urge to listen anymore. Trembling with anger, my mom shot them a fierce glare. Did you invite us here just to look down on us? I've heard about how you enjoy berating us for being a single-parent family. It was the first time I had heard her speak with such authority. Please, stop with the accusations. It was just a little teasing, right? Morgan replied, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Mockery isn't funny, and all your comments come off as condescending. We won't tolerate this any longer, Mom declared firmly. Yosef's family looked displeased with her clear stance. How presumptuous of commoners. Commoners, huh? That may be the case, but you've solidified my decision, Mom said. For a moment, Yosef's family seemed taken aback by her words, then erupted into laughter, clearly thinking, what can you possibly do? With a sigh, Mom began to speak. Actually, we have funds deposited with your bank, but we don't wish to entrust them to people like you. Oh really? But we don't even know your name. It can't be much, right? Probably insignificant, Morgan scoffed. Exactly. Even if you try to trouble us with your funds, it won't matter. We don't need low-class poor people, YF added disdainfully. I realized that even Mom's last attempt at reconciliation was in vain. They continued to speak derisively, seemingly unaware of their impact, making it clear, we're closing our account. Okay, go ahead, came the mocking reply. Yosef's family looked at us with contempt. I thought, let's make those who judge others by their background suffer a bit, and I couldn't help but smile at the thought. Is that so? Then we'll proceed as such. Please consider this meeting never happened. Of course, we had no intention of marrying a daughter from a single-parent family. Well then, we'll take our leave now. Mom and I stood up. Oh, don't worry about the bill. It's too expensive for you, YF sneered. Is that so? Well then, with that, our family meeting ended. Later, I made a phone call. Weeks passed, and my mobile phone was inundated with calls from Yosef. I had anticipated this and had no intention of answering. It was their responsibility. I promptly blocked the number. A few days later, I received a call from Grandpa Kyle. summoned by him, Mom and I headed to Sunrise Bank. In the meeting room, YF's family looked pale upon our arrival. As soon as they saw us, Morgan stood up and rushed over, bowing deeply. I am extremely sorry for what happened. I didn't respond to her words. Instead, I smiled and began to speak. What exactly are you apologizing for? At my question, Morgan bit her lip hard, trembling with anger. It was understandable. There were far too many reasons for her to apologize. This whole situation had escalated because I mentioned closing our account that day. Our account wasn't particularly large, so closing it wouldn't have significantly impacted them. But Kyle's situation was different. He managed the inheritance left by my dad at Sunrise Bank for our benefit and had his own account there. If all accounts, including Kyle's and my dad's inheritance, were closed, it would total about $7 million. In other words, their disrespect had led to this decision. Importantly, Kyle was the former CEO of the bank. My dad was supposed to take over but passed away young, leaving the position to Scott. I didn't know that Tiffany was related to the former CEO, Scott said, anxiety etched on his face, as if making excuses. That's no excuse, I replied firmly. Even if you didn't know, your prejudice against our family is your own fault. You mean if we were relatives, you would have treated us differently? Hey, don't talk about my dad like that. It's your fault for not informing us from the start that your grandpa was the former CEO, YF interjected. I don't have any obligation to inform a stranger like you. Besides, you were the one who started this and made fun of us, remember? YF, unable to retort, narrowed his eyes in frustration. You insulted me knowing I came from a single-parent family. When I said I would transfer the account due to insecurity, you told us to go ahead. We simply did as we were instructed. But it may be just that for you. Have you ever thought about the feelings of someone whose family has been insulted? Silence enveloped the room. Morgan trembled, looking hopeless, while Scott hung his head, yet YF still seemed unconvinced, his face contorted with dissatisfaction. Getting all high and mighty just because people talk to you, YF muttered, unrepentant. At that moment, the door to the conference room swung open, and Kyle walked in. His stern expression made Scott and Morgan go even paler, freezing them in their seats. Only YF shot me a glare, even after being given a chance to reflect. You're still only thinking about yourselves, Kyle said, his authoritative presence filling the room. It's not my fault, it's her, YF shot back defiantly. Watch your words. If you continue down this path, you'll only make your situation worse, Kyle warned. YF fell silent, glaring at me once more. Then, with a resigned huff, he exclaimed, no way, who would think that a single parent's relative was the former CEO? You knew I was going to be the future CEO and came to the family meeting just to mock us, I retorted. Yosef, be quiet, Kyle snapped, fixing YF with a piercing glare. YF was breathing heavily, still seething. Future CEO, huh? Kyle's attention shifted to Scott, who shrank under Kyle's intense scrutiny. I understand your desire to leave the bank to your son, but after seeing his mindset, it's clear he can't continue as CEO. That's absurd. You can't make that decision over something like this, Scott protested but quickly fell silent under Kyle's fierce gaze. You still don't get it. Your attitude is the real problem. While I may be retired, the board will have the final say. If you have something to say, direct it to them. Remember, we recorded both the previous conversation and this one. The voice recorder will serve as evidence. I pulled out a voice recorder and pressed play, replaying our conversation from the other day for them. How dare you prepare something like that? It's unfair, Morgan exclaimed. It was merely a precaution, but keep in mind, he pushed me into this situation, I replied. YF had no retort, his face turning an even paler shade. Thank you, we'll handle it from here, they finally said. Mom and I took our leave. In the end, Kyle didn't officially transfer the funds, but Scott was removed from his CEO position, and YF was demoted. Unable to handle the blow to his pride, YF chose to resign voluntarily. Given Kyle's influence in the financial sector, YF would find it difficult to secure a job in the same field again. As for Scott, whether he recognized this or not, he seemed determined to stay until retirement, though Kyle suggested it would be challenging for him, both mentally and physically. Morgan, who once held power as the CEO's wife, began taking on part-time work to maintain her lifestyle, but her character likely made it hard for her to keep a job. I'm really sorry, Mom said. It's okay, you didn't know, right? I replied. I only shared what happened with the friend who introduced me to Yosef. She had merely heard about him through someone else and wasn't at fault. While Mom had initially worried about being a single parent, I felt content now, living with the support I had received. When I told her this, she smiled and said, thank you. Once everything was settled, Kyle invited us to visit him at his home again sometime. I was truly grateful for his help in resolving the situation. It had been tough, but I felt happy now, so all was well. I have some good news for you, Kyle said. Really? It's not about dating again, is it? It's about a friend of my boyfriend. This time, he's definitely a good guy. I'm not interested in dating right now. I'm satisfied with my life as it is. I want to cherish those who support me, and maybe someday I'll meet someone I truly connect with.